Okay, I think we're live. I'll just wait for it to pop up on YouTube itself. I got the... Okay, and here we are. We are live. So Nazarite bringing you your dialogue. It's been such a long time since I've had a dialogue. In the old channel, I don't know, I had like 10 of them or something. I don't know. The only one I have on the current channel, the one I had long ago with Sarah Hayona Eisenman, Essene. She and her husband, that was a great dialogue, but okay. Hello, hi. So who's here? James is here, Jacob Scott is here, and you're here. Now, you said that you were around in the old channel, but I don't know if I don't know. I mean, we definitely didn't connect, and maybe you saw me, maybe we had a, I don't remember exactly. But
no, we never had a.
See, it's all good. Okay, we are live. Good. Everything works. Hi. So do you prefer Maish or Mash or
Maish, yeah. Maish. Like the Maish. Okay. Don't tell anybody.
So Maish. Maish is in, you said you're in New Jersey right now?
Right now I'm in New York.
Right now in New York, okay.
Yep, I'm in central New York.
Chodesh Tov, not by you it's Kaftet Becheshvan. But here we have Kislev, and a good moon, a blessed new moon to everybody. Hey, Ariel is here. Evening, guys. Great to see you both. He said, I hope that all is well. Yes, indeed. Things are well. Thank God. If I can sit here and do this, you know, with a cup of tea, it means that things are indeed well. I'm happy to say so myself. So, mate, tell me a little bit about your, you and how you arrived at this. Start wherever you want to start, whether it's childhood or, where you're from, where you've been, how you arrived at the Nazarite vow, and anything you'd love to share. I'm sure we would love to hear it. So,
well, first let me just say it's just such a pleasure to connect with you personally. And I think I mentioned in our personal exchange that I did, when I was first searching out the vow, you were one of the people that I saw your videos. And so it's really special for me because that was about 7 years ago. So it's really kind of beautiful to kind of come full circle and to be able to have this conversation with you because you were part of my journey. And so thank you for being part of my journey. I guess my story is it's pretty long. It's pretty crazy. But I would say that I grew up in a household that the easiest way to convey it was, as I understood it, it was called like a Judeo-Christian household. And what that meant to me was, as I understood it, it meant what we believed and what people refer to, and I'm not comfortable referring to it as the Old Testament, but that's what I heard it, as this Old Testament. And so that this idea that we believed in this Old Testament and this New Testament. And so that was kind of the paradigm that I grew up in.
Judeo-Christian, in what way Judeo and in what way Christian?
So that's what I'm explaining.
Are we talking technically?
This concept of believing in the law, but also believing, I guess, in simple terms, believing in the law, which really wasn't the case, right? But it's what I thought. Didn't really have a direct connection with Judaism other than that I was, circumcised because my mother wanted to honor the Abrahamic covenant. We grew up, I never saw my dad naked. I was sent to school with a note not to shower with the other boys. So privacy was always like very part of our household. Yet we went to church on Sunday. And then when I became a teenager, I literally found out that Sunday wasn't the seventh day of the week. I thought, the week ended with Sunday. and I thought we were observing Sabbath. And then all of a sudden I realized we're not observing Sabbath. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, why aren't we observing Sabbath? And candidly, I didn't get a good answer to that question. Um, and it really, if I get emotional, by the way, it's not, some people are uncomfortable with tears. My emotions are not grief necessarily. It's like whenever I feel what I would say like strong presence of spiritual conviction or movement, I can cry, and I can touch on that a little bit later. But for me, it's just so.
Amen.
For me, it's like such a deep. Something that resonates so deeply in my soul that growing up that I literally had like this false paradigm, like I literally
Mm.
believed that something that was false, that this first day of the week was the last day of the week. And if you think about it in terms of the creation, the first day of the week, what was happening in the creation story, like man and woman didn't even exist until the sixth day, so it's like completely, it's like if you really put it in context, like these people that are celebrating or trying to say that Sabbath is on Sunday, and you look at that in the divine order of creation, it's like you didn't even exist at that point. And so that's like it's like you didn't even exist. How could you be resting with the creator if you didn't even exist? And so it touches me really
Good point.
deeply. It touches me really deeply because also it was something that brought me back to my teshuva, um, was Sabbath. Um,
I mean, Shabbat, yo, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
This,
yeah. It was, and it was his name because, and I am emotional because I believe it's in Hazakal or Ezekiel where it talks about those that are in exile, that they will forget their identities. Part of the curse of the northern kingdom was that we would forget our identities, we'd forget our tongue, we would be completely disenfranchised from ourselves. And then in the prophet Hezekiah, it talks about waking, that we would wake up in the nations, we would call upon the name, we would return to his Sabbath, we would even teach our parents the old ways. And so that was literally my experience. There was a point in my life where I walked away from religion altogether. I was living secularly. I had respect and reverence for the creator, but I was kind of like Proverbs 5, 5 through 8 says, don't lean on your own understanding, right? It says, in all your ways, acknowledge him. And so I didn't have a construct of Torah. I didn't have a construct of instruction. So I had to completely rely on my own understanding. And I almost
mm.
destroyed my life doing that. Um, and so when I woke up, so to speak, at the time that I woke up, it was around two.
And yeah, what age was? Yeah, go
So
on.
I was in my 40s, and I actually was pursuing shamanism because I had a very weird experience at my, I think it was my 20th high school reunion, and this one of my classmates came over to me and he was like, I've seen auras since I was a kid, and when I was in high school, I actually thought there was something wrong with me, and then I met this shaman, and he taught me how to turn it off, and he's telling me how I have this very just unique aura, and he recommended this book on shamanism, and so I got it and I read it, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is what was happening with Eliyahu, like out in the wilderness, like when he was, whenever he was having his experience with um the Almighty, and maybe this is the path. Maybe it's mushrooms, and maybe it's these meditative things. And so I started pursuing this path of shamanism.
Was it a
And
particular type of shamanism, or
well, no, it was too
was it like?
early. I mean, I knew of like Siberian, and then I knew of like Latin American, and I knew that they had kind of different approaches but the same result, and so that kind of gave it credibility to me.
Mhm.
So that was one of the reasons that I thought, oh, maybe this is like this is the way. And then I had this crazy trip out in California, when I was just so hungry, you know, and I just had this desire to literally like go into the wilderness. And I went up to Leo Carrillo in North Los Angeles County and went into this camping site. And I was supposed to be there with my woman. And I really just needed, I told her, I said, you know, I feel like I need some days to myself. And
Mm.
I had like 3 days, you know, up in the woods kind of by myself. And it's amazing the feedback we get when we're really searching for truth, because I remember one of the things that really touched me. I had a There were birds flying around. I put bird seed in my hand at this table. I have a video of this, of like my putting my hand out, and I had a bird come land in my hand and eat out of my hand. And it just like,
Mm.
it was like a connection that I was desperate for with nature, with, you know, with some feeling of connection, which was really what I was looking for. And somebody gave me some mushrooms and I ate them. My girlfriend ended up coming into town, and I had this, I wanted to see through the veil. You know, I wanted to have like a supernatural experience to like validate that I'm in a spiritual realm, and I wanted to kind of see through the veil. So I had these mushrooms. I took a picture like how much I was eating, and I had this deep meditation that was completely internal, and there was no real hallucinations. I did see like something later when I went out to the tent to the bathroom. I kind of saw something in the shadows, but I had this very
Mm.
vivid meditation of my relationship with the creator. There were like four distinct things: my relationship with the creator, my relationship with my son, myself, and this woman. And
Mm.
I knew that the relationship with the creator, my son, and me needed repair, and that the relationship with the woman, that I basically had this clarity that I had to sever it, that we weren't aligned. And it
Mhm.
wasn't a matter of love, it was a matter of that we weren't aligned. And I literally woke up, and I thought it was just like a half hour. She said I was crying like for 4 hours. So I don't really have a sense of space and time. But when I came kind
Well,
of
sounds
out
like
of
a
it,
mushroom trip, all right.
yeah, when I came out of it, I was just said, you know, I'm sorry, I can't be with you. It's not about love. You know, we're not aligned. And so we broke up. She took it really hard, and I ended up getting involved with this, not in a romantic way, but this woman approached us on the beach. And it's a really long story, and I want to be sensitive to time, but ultimately I kind of took on to her like as a mother figure almost. And we were talking about spiritual things, and she took me to the Getty ashram and ultimately stole my car and everything that I had and left me on the street, with just
Ah.
like my phone and my wallet, you know. So I got stranded. You know, I ended up staying. I was out there for like 3 extra days, and then the woman that I was in a union with, got me a flight home. I went home. I thought I had gone through these stages of enlightenment. I thought I was on this path of enlightenment, and I was coming home from spending some time with my daughter in my truck, and I was listening to this, you know, I was seeking this kind of shamanism, and I'm listening to this woman talk about her experience in shamanism. And she's saying that it all started for her at this place that the woman took me in California. And then I'm hearing her talk about weird stuff like reptilians. And then she played this message that they supposedly left for her on her answer machine. And it just like, all of
Mm.
the like skin, like all I had like goosebumps. The hair was like standing on end, and I was just like, I got to turn this off. Like, this is not for me, you know. And whatever it was,
Yeah.
it didn't feel right, and my body was like screaming like, this is not light, this is darkness. And so in that moment, I was not sure, you know, what was going on, but I knew I was scared. And then to make the story even more bizarre,
Scared because of the falsehood at all, or scared because you didn't know where to go from there?
kind of both, because I felt lost. I thought, you know, I had this
Mhm.
idea that I was on this path of enlightenment. I felt really confident about it. I felt good. I felt like I had this awareness. I mean, I don't know. I want to give you the opportunity to, you know, to engage and ask questions as you're interested. But I literally came back from California with this feeling of what I could, and I didn't even know what a Kundalini awakening was. but I had this feeling of like electricity, almost like a serpent. I literally had a feeling of like a snake being up my spine and fanning out over the back of my head. And I sketched it like a cobra, and I realized that a cobra is like the only snake that actually stands up like a man, and it has this fan. So I was like, I think I had a Kundalini awakening. I didn't even really know what that was, but somehow I was saying that that's what I thought I had. And I made this video. I thought, I had an Alexa in the house, and I'm thinking,
Uh-huh.
they're eavesdropping through this thing. So I'm thinking I'm going to talk to the government through it, whoever's eavesdropping. And I'm telling them all this knowledge that I got back in California. And I tell my lady, record this, and she records it. And this might be a little dark for some people, but when she recorded it and I played it back, um, it really frightened me because I actually said that, that the Hashatan had told me something. And I literally said that, but I had no recollection of saying that. And so to hear myself say that on video, it scared me really big time. It really scared me.
In Sefer Yetzirah, there's the idea of the discerning the bad and the bad discerning the good. Knowing one, we can know the other. This is not to say that you should go on the path of falsehood and wickedness in order to discern, but there's that idea of through one to the other.
Well, I think you're onto something, because for me, this woman that I had this experience with, there was one time where we were in this moment and she wanted me to take her to her campsite. And when I got there was nothing there. And I was like, okay, where are you sleeping? And she was like, on the table. And she looked at me with this very seductive look. And I was not interested in anything but wholesomeness. My girlfriend, my one,
Mm.
not, she wasn't even my girlfriend. My woman was in the tent, and she just looked at me with these very seductive eyes. And she reached over and she touched me with her left hand, and it was like I felt like a Star Wars movie. Like this force field went off, and it was like like all this electricity down my side, like she had touched the force field, and I could feel it. But in this video that I made, I was kind of referring to her as this Shaitan figure, and so my sense is that she was not a positive spiritual force and was trying to compromise me. My spirit picked up on things that my mind didn't pick up on. And this just
Mhm.
left me in a place of very, very humbling place, right? Like, okay, not only am I not on the right path, I'm not even in the same forest that I thought I was in. And I just, my
Wow.
dad, when I was little, my dad had given me some 3x5 cards of some Mishlei, Proverbs to remember. And one of them was Proverbs 14:12. It says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but leads to death. And that came to me in that moment. I was already scared. Now that Proverbs comes to me and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, there's a way that seems right to a man, but it leads to death. I'm like, wow, that's really scary, because you think you're on a path, but you're heading for destruction. And now
Yeah.
I'm starting to recognize myself in that. The other proverb was Proverbs 3. Sadly, my dad only gave me 5 through 6, and it really goes 5 through 8. But it's, fear the Almighty and do not lean on your own instruction or your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path and make it straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Revere the Almighty, and it will be life to your gut and healing to your bones. Which is amazing, because my dad
Right.
literally died from cancer that had infested his bones and affected his gut. And here this proverb is, he gave me the first two verses, but if he had really understood the second two, the promise that's there, that when we walk righteously, like we're literally getting this promise even of health. And the amazing thing is that we now know that 70% of our immune system approximately lives in our gut, right? So that's like literally saying that we'll have a strong immune system. And we know that the bones make the blood. So like it's saying that your core, your immune system and your bones and your blood, you'll be healthy when you walk in fear of me and reverence of me. Like, and so I didn't know at that point what to do. I didn't know, I didn't have the Torah. I didn't have I mean, I had some basic understanding, but not, anything really
Mhm.
foundational. And I just cried out. I just cried out to the Almighty. I begged for mercy. I begged for him, I just said, I just want you. I want the truth, I'm scared, and you're like, I want you. And so, um, that was a turning point for me. That was the fall of 2017. And shortly after, my woman and I were she moved out. And the amazing thing is, I didn't relate to, I always loved Israelis and Jewish people, but I never really related to being connected with it myself. But the amazing thing is that every single apartment that I ever rented or lived in, but one was, I always had like, I was always living in a Yehudi house. It's like amazing. Like I had this, and I had clients that were Yehudi. Like I had I remember my first Shabbat dinner. I got invited to a client, and it was like the first time I felt like I was at home, and it was such a powerful feeling of home that I truly hoped that they were going to invite me back. And it was just that one time, but I got a taste of something that I just was so thirsty for. So
There's Rabbi Nachman has the bottom line. The bottom line, he says, is whoever drinks of Hungarian wine never be fooled again. I mean, basically, once you get a taste of truth, once you get a taste of that aligns with you, once you get a taste of that, I mean, you could call it Torah, you could call it that pure Yiddish, you could call it whatever you want. It's like after that, if you receive it, in truth, and you don't forget it. It's nothing can compare because you already know something that
yeah,
cannot be forgotten.
hallelujah.
Go on. Hallelujah.
So I got to this point where, like I said, I those verses were very much profound for me. I would say that those two verses that my dad required me to memorize as a child were like right there when I needed them. And I didn't know what to do. So the way that I started to look at my life was like, I started to reflect on my life like, okay, I don't know what to do, but I can look at my life and I can see like I shouldn't be doing this. Like
Hmm.
I started to think like, okay, I have two children, so I was thinking if my daughter was here, would I want her to see me doing this behavior? Would I want her listening to this music or watching this movie? Right? I didn't. So I just started using like I think what he gives us our intuition and rationale to listen to that and to demonstrate some basic discernment, right? And so I started to do that. I really couldn't even listen to some of the music that I had been listening to. It just didn't feel right, And I was a guy that listened to kind of everything, and
Do you recall, I mean, music specifically, because I had a rabbi in Tzfat, I mentioned this in the past. I had a rabbi in yeshiva who was a Baal Tshuva, and he said that he at one point walked into his bedroom and he put on a Yes record and he didn't feel it, and he knew that that's it. He's done with it, and that's not the way for him. And I'm
yeah,
curious, do you remember any specific type of music, be it a genre or a band, where you were like, it's just turning me off, so I'm going to turn it off?
I mean, honestly, I had such a broad, eclectic taste of music that I wasn't getting really any
Hmm.
pleasure from any of that secular music. And
Wow.
specifically, I had a Dominican. My woman at that point in time was Dominican, and so she liked kind of like housey. I don't even know the right name for it, but there's like Latin beats and stuff, and like some of it's kind of quasi rappy
Hmm.
and but heavy bass and beats, and it was just like kind of party music. And I remember she she came over when we just I decided that I had made a vow to her, so I went back on my kind of word. I realized I had made a vow before the Almighty with her, and so I felt like I had a responsibility to honor that. So I tried to, I received her back, and I remember she came back one day, and it was a weekend I was supposed to have my children. It was my parenting weekend, but I didn't have them, which was hard for me, difficult for me. and she wanted to come over and kind of play this music, and she wanted to be romantic, and I was just I couldn't do it. I didn't feel, and it was actually a Shabbat. It was actually Shabbat, to be honest with you. And my spirit just wasn't cool. I had to stop and tell her, like, I can't do.
There was a disconnect.
Yeah, and it's amazing that I don't even know that I've ever really thought about that particular incident as being on Shabbat until this conversation, but it was definitely on Shabbat. And my spirit was like, it felt like somebody was grating the nails on like chalkboard. It was like, and I had to tell her, like, she wanted to be romantic, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. It just doesn't feel right to me. Long story short, within a short time frame of that, I was in prayer, and I don't know if I was imagining myself in light or if I was receiving some sense of being light. I just remember this meditation where there was light around me, and I received the word in my spirit. I don't remember it exactly, but what stuck with me was this word that made it clear to me, and it was like, you have what you need, but for my word. And so in my spirit, that just was a call to go back to the beginning, like Barashith 1:1. And
Yep. Amen.
and I did. And hallelujah, it was like I had this thirst that could not be quenched. You know, I love that psalm that talks about the stag panting
Which
for
one?
the I can't remember which number, but it says, "I'm the stag panting for the streams, the fresh streams of water." It's, you know, and
Yes. תערוג על אפיקי מים, כן נפשי תערוג אליך אלוהים.
yes, that thirst. I had this unquenchable thirst, and I was just consuming, like reading, consuming. I was watching videos. I was, that's one of the, it wasn't, I didn't find you quite yet at that time, but it was like, I'm like listening to, to Torah instruction. I'm reading it. But here's the thing. When I started to read it, anytime I got to a positive command or a negative command, I started to apply it. And by the time I got to Numbers or Bamadavar chapter 6, I would come across the vow of Nazir, right? So I get through everything and I get to this point, and just the way it resonated with me, I felt how I interpreted that was that there was this person that wants to be closer to the Almighty, that they can make this vow, right? And so I'm reading it. I'm like, isn't this what everybody wants? Like, don't we all, isn't this what we all want? And so then the main concern for me was, without Beit Midrash, like without a temple, like, is it even possible to take this vow? Because what happens if I break it? You know? And so I prayed about it for several months. And then literally one day, this was at this point, this all started in late 2017. Now we're in early 2018, probably spring 2018, and I'm literally reaching in the refrigerator for the quart of Kedem Concord grape juice, like my favorite, and I'm pulling it out of the refrigerator, and I hear in my spirit, "You're not to have anything from the grape." Like, it stopped me in my tracks like that, and I literally put it back in that moment. And I literally just heard that inner voice, and I recognized that as it had to be an answer to my prayer, like, this is exactly what I've been praying about. And then I didn't know what to do. Like, I just started to observe it without making it public. I was like, I don't want to, I didn't speak the vow, but I started to observe the vow.
I started that way as well, by the way.
That's how you did it as well?
I started with that, yeah. It's see, is this something that I'm, later on I did take the vow proper, the proper Samson Nazarite vow, but I also did start simply by observing it with the hair.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing that we had that similar experience. So fast
Mm.
forward, I'm observing the vow, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months. And I'm living in Freehold, New Jersey. And I really want to I'm studying, I'm doing a Torah study with this rabbi that I met, on Instagram. And he was just kind of really broad reaching and accepting all kinds of people, and was just trying to expose them to Torah. And so I was studying, and I really wanted to have, I really wanted
What were you studying with him?
he just it was he would just give lessons. Like, it was kind of like he would give shears, and you would you talk about it, and we didn't even necessarily have the structure of the portion, but I know that we were reading through the portion as well. But then he would give sharing. He would go around and give lectures. And it's actually funny because the first time I met him, I was wearing tzitzit at this point. I couldn't find a job in my field. I'd worked in shopping center development. I'd done very well. I walked away from a job because I was conflicted. I didn't believe their integrity and they were doing business right. And so I actually walked away from the job and had a severance agreement with them. And I could not
Why
find
not?
work. I could not find work. I literally couldn't even get a job at Lowe's. And so I found this job cleaning gutters on Craigslist for $15 an hour cash. And that's the only job I could find. So I'm driving to show up to this job, and they're going to pick us up, and we're going to drive to Pennsylvania this day to clean gutters. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking and I'm praying in my spirit, is this really, like, am I doing something wrong? Because I know that I've got an education, I've had all this experience and development, and yet I'm driving out here to clean gutters, and for $15 an hour. I want to make sure, like, if this is what you want me to do, okay, but like, I just also don't want to, like, squander my gifts.
Sure.
My uncle broke his back and is a um he's paralyzed from the hips down, cleaning his gutters, and he
Oh,
fell off
geez.
a single level roof, and he has no use of his legs, and it's been like that for almost 30 years. So I'm on the way to go up and climb on a roof, and I'm thinking, okay, don't fall off the roof. Don't fall off the roof. And we get out to Pennsylvania, and it's these 3-story condominiums, and the roofs are very steep. And the foreman is like, we have to wait because it's February. We have to wait until the ice melt, the frost melts a little bit. So we waited, and then we had to take these garbage bags up, and literally we had to empty the gutters into the garbage bags and remove all the leaves. So I'm up on this roof. I'm on the back side of the roof, which is 2 stories, not 3 stories. I get this little system where I'm scraping the leaves, and I scrape and I put it in the bag, and I move over, and I scrape and I put it in the bag, and I move over, and then boom, I scrape and I move over, and all of a sudden there's no roof. And I literally fall off the roof. I have just enough time to grab the edge with my left hand and kind of like just kind of get my body to go like that a little bit. And I fell off the side of this building. I hit the ground, and I
Dang.
go boom, like right like a judo fall, just right down, boom. If I had fallen off the front, I would have landed on concrete. I landed on grass. The foreman jumps down. He comes down. He's like, don't move, don't move. And I kind of feel my body. I'm like, I think I can move. I get up. The kid that sees me fall happens to be Yehudi. And by the way, all these men are like, they're like criminals, drug addicts. They're guys that cannot get a job. I'm like the only clean, straight guy there. Plus, I'm wearing seat. So they're looking at me like, who's this weirdo working with us? They're all kind of giving me like a hairy eyeball, right? Now they see me fall off the roof. This Jewish kid gets down and says, like, he's like, literally his legs were shaking like this. You could literally
Wow.
see his legs shaking because he thought I was dying. He thought he was watching me fall to my death. I get up, I shake myself off, I go over on the sidewalk, I get down on my knees and I pray. And I'm just like, thank you. I go back up on the roof and I finish the job and I'm back up on the roof before the kid that sees me fall. And
Wow.
I'm pretty scared at this point, but I'm like, I finished the job, right? So then that night,
Wow, that's determination.
the reason why I'm telling this story is because that night this Rav was in town, and I'm just like, okay, I literally fell off a roof today, and I'm like, this guy's in town. I feel like you want me to go see him, and I'm gonna make that extra effort. And even though I'm tired and I had a long day and I fell off a roof, I'm gonna go hear this guy talk, and he's literally talking about truth that night. And it was so special to me because that was like where my story began, was really recognizing, before all this stuff happened, I didn't really share this, but the kind of pivotal moment for me was recognizing that I didn't want any form of falsehood in my life, that and that falsehood comes in different forms. It comes like
In
from our
all forms.
tongue. It can come from omission. It can come from inflection. By like we can manipulate the truth all kinds of ways, and I recognize that. And I made this decision. I wanted to divorce myself from all forms of falsehood. That was really the beginning for me. And so he was there talking about truth that night, and he was just like feeding me like the most delicious tasting words, and it was just like feeding my spirit. And so that's when I began studying with him. But it connected to this whole thing falling off the roof. So the next 3 days, I could barely roll over in bed. It felt like a bus hit me. That night, I could walk, I was fine. But the next day, I could barely even, I had to like literally shimmy myself, like little pushes to roll over in bed. It's how bad it was. And by the time I could
Wow.
move again, I went back to see the guy that owned the company on Friday, and he tells me, my foreman tells me you were wearing CC. I said, yeah. He goes, I'm Jewish. He goes, I'm not observant, but he goes, I have to tell you, I had a guy that worked for me that fell off a 3-foot ladder and broke his back. And you fell off a 2-story building and got back on the roof and went to work. And he's like, my guys are really freaked out about that. And he goes, the fact that you're wearing tzitzit, you got people talking because there were Yahudi there. And I'm just like, he's like, I can't have you come back to work because my workman's compensation insurance is so expensive. I'm sorry, but I can't have you come back to work. He gave me like a little
Oh
extra
man.
money. Gave me like a little extra money. I think he gave me, it was supposed to be like a 10-hour job, 10-hour day, like 150 bucks. He gave me like 250 bucks and he was done. I literally think that part of my, like that whole prayer I had at the beginning, I literally think that part of what I was doing there that day was somehow planting a seed of obedience, like reverence, and that these non-observant Yahudi like saw it, and they saw that attached to something that was maybe not miraculous, but seemed pretty
But no, but they
miraculous.
made a connection.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that was it. And then he told me that his wife was kind of getting into alternative spirituality and like maybe even quasi witchcraft. And so like I remember, kind of telling him about how serious that was and really encouraging him to like, go back to the Torah and, I just planting that seed. And that was it. It was done. And so um I was studying with this rabbi and I had my first kosher Passover. And that was when, okay, so it's kind of funny because I'm at Passover, right? And I'm under the impression that I'm not supposed to have the blessing of the cup because we're not supposed to have anything from the grape. So I'm literally at Passover and I'm like spilling my cup to make it look like I'm having the blessing because I don't know what to do, right? It's my first Passover. I don't know what I'm doing. All I know is I don't think I'm supposed to be having anything from the grape. So the first night, I'm like literally making it look like I'm trying to hide this grape juice and spill it, and we finished our first
You
cedar.
were you were you, wait, you were reluctant to say I'm taking of the grape, of the fruit of the grape.
Yeah, I just didn't. I was so insecure, like the fact that it was like my first Passover. I was like, I was so nervous, and I was like, I was like I was overwhelmed almost. Like it was moving.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was intense. It was like a very intense experience. But so the next day, Passover that week, the Passover that year, it was 2019, was on a Friday night, the first Seder, and then the next day during Shabbat, um, contemplating this, and I'm contemplating that, oh, this is not good. You were dishonest and you made a commitment to have no falsehood in your life, and you were like literally hiding, and you weren't being honest. And so I had this conviction,
Well, you didn't have, have ill intent there. You were overwhelmed, like you said. I hear you. Go on.
but that's not an excuse.
I mean, I suppose that's okay. Well, go on. I mean,
Yeah.
I
So
suppose.
I went back that night, and it still took me three cups to get the strength to say to the Rav, can I say something? Can I speak? Do you mind? Can I say a word? And I stood up. I got the strength to stand up. I was shaking. I said, I've been hiding, and you're my family, and I realized that when I made a commitment to truth that this was wrong to hide, and I'm Nazir. And so I don't want my last blessing to go wasted. I think I should give my blessing to someone else.
Hmm.
And so he said it was kind of too late for that. And I made my vow. I guess that he said like I made my vow public, and it's interesting because later in my deeper studies, I realized that we're actually, as Nazir, supposed to have the blessing of the cup on Pesach because it says that we are to do it despite our vow. It says that we are to have.
Let's say that.
I don't have the direct reference, but it's there. It actually says that you're to have the blessing of the cup despite vows. So it's there,
I know that. I would
not
love.
the
I would love the
halacha,
source.
not the
Okay.
halacha. Well, we'll I'd be happy to dive into that because when I dove into it personally, it says despite vows, and it's the only vow that I'm aware of that prohibits somebody from having the grape. So my understanding, and again, I'm presenting my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding,
Sure.
just for conversation's sake, is that we are actually to have
Hmm.
the blessing of the cup for Pesach. That's the one exception. Now I could be wrong, but that's my current understanding.
I hear you.
Uh, so that really began. That was like my whole, kind of segue into this walk. It's now been it's now like in my seventh year. That was 2000. Yeah, this is my seventh year. Next year will be 8 years for me, and it's just been an incredible journey because
Hmm.
the woman we got back together, but then I wanted to obviously honor Shabbat. I wanted to honor the feast days, and I wanted her to be more modest. She had a beauty salon that we opened in Long Branch where she had fake lashes and all this stuff. And the busiest day of the week was on Shabbat. So I was like, I don't want to
Weekends.
be
Yeah.
open that. I don't want to be. I don't want to. I want to close the business. And I honestly think that part of the reason that she left me was because she didn't want to give up that business. She's very materialistic, as it turns out, and that's now even more evident. And so she left me, and she said she said it's not in my heart to do this. This is a woman that told me that she'd be happy to live in a clay hut with me, and then literally I'm like, well,
Hmm.
really, all our life, the way that this is really only changing our life is we would be honoring Shabbat. We would be celebrating these feasts during the year, and I think we should also incorporate some more modesty. Um,
Wait,
and
hang
she
on.
was
Let
just,
me just cut you off right there. So Nazyr says, I don't know if you can see. Can you see the comments on your screen?
yeah,
Sneezer checked with AI, and in the Talmud, in Masechet Nazir, it says that he may say the blessing, but must pass the cup to someone else to drink, which I have done at a wedding. I did that at a wedding where I said the blessing and I gave the cup to someone else to drink. On Passover, incidentally, since we're talking about it, I follow this in the footsteps of the Jerusalem Nazarite Rabbi the Kohen, and I drink apple juice. But so you can say the blessing, but you can't partake of wine, or
Yeah,
at least again halacha speaking.
yeah, thank you for that. I wish, I should definitely have this committed to memory, the passage, obviously for Pesach. I'm a little embarrassed that I don't have that just by rote memory at this point.
Don't be. There's always things we don't know. Certainly about this vow with so many halachot. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. We're all still learning. We're all still learning. I don't think anybody in the chat or in this little dialogue thinks they have it all. Not by any means.
I
Be
definitely know I
embarrassed.
don't have it all. That's for sure.
Look at what it is that you are being embarrassed about. Understand how rich and amazing it is that this embarrassment, that the Torah is, you're embarrassed by Torah is a great virtue, so to speak.
Well, that speaks. I'm going to turn that around towards you. For you to even recognize that and to bring that to my attention speaks to your merit, because part of our ability to see one another is from feedback from one another. And this to me is like a heart of Torah, is that we're supposed to be facing each other as brothers. And this really speaks to my heart, that how much we need each other, how much we are all part of a body, literally this body, this big, beautiful body that is called Israel, that it literally says B'nai Israel, right? And that could be plural or singular. But if you think about it, we're supposed to be echad, like in one unified body of individuals, just like our body is a unified body of individual parts that function together as a whole. And this is the beautiful opportunity. So for
Yeah,
me,
right? Like the tabernacle, right? V'haya hamishkan echad. It's different coming together to form a union
yes, and
or a
this
unity or a
union,
unity. Yeah.
yeah, this unity, to be as one. It's like, how can we say we love the Almighty if we don't love each other? And that's one of the things that I just want to acknowledge while I have the moment, because I so appreciate the humility that you demonstrate as an example. I can be very fiery. I don't think I've ever seen you lose your temper. I don't think I've ever seen you take an insult from somebody. And all the videos that I've ever seen you conduct yourself, you've been full of chen.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just to be clear, in the house, I definitely get angry and lose my temper, and I'm trying to work on it. It's in the house. You hurt the ones you love, but
Well, I
I
have,
try to be pretty chill.
now that I'm engaged, I've heard that there's a very valuable book for us men, and it's Beit Shalom. I don't know if you've ever read it, but
Beit Shalom or Brit Shalom?
I thought it was Beit Shalom, but the House of
Yeah,
Peace.
okay, so it's Beit Shalom.
Yeah, House of Peace, and it's
Yeah, Beit
literally
Shalom then.
it's recommended that women do not read this. They're actually kind of told not to, because it's showing us men like what our accountability is. And the reason why women aren't supposed to get that is because they're not supposed to be like, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. It's supposed to be for us to set that bar for ourselves. Like Proverbs says, you don't want to be in a house with a contentious woman. It's like a constant dripping.
No, that's death.
And so it's I think
Death.
it's a great
Wait,
book for us, though.
Sneezer, yes, women can partake of the Nazarite vow. It's right there in the verse. Ish o isha. It's right there.
So
Yes.
that's a very interesting. Let's talk about this for a second, because
Sure.
I had a very interesting phenomena when I started to tell people I was Nazir. The phenomena
Mhm.
was, people would ask me if I was celibate, right? And so I was like, no, where would you come up with this? Like, where is this coming from? Because my understanding was, clearly, uh, Shamashun was not celibate, and I always understood Shamuel to be Nazir, even if it wasn't through the vow. He was dedicated. His hair was uncut. I thought it was inferred that he had children, and so it's very interesting. There's one place, and I can't remember where it is. There's one place in the entire Tanakh where the two letters, or the three letters, Elaf Vav He, means desire, and
Yes.
it's very
It's in the
interesting.
Psalms.
it's very interesting that
כי בחר אדוני בציון איבה למשה.
look at
Yes.
you.
Go on.
That's incredible. That's really incredible,
I
brother.
have my moments.
That's beautiful. Wow. So it's interesting to me that when I had this reoccurring question about the celibacy thing, I've heard you reference the
The New
book.
York Nazarite, by the way, the New York Nazarite, Aleph Aleph, his contention is that the Nazarite should be celibate, but he's an outlier. All the other Nazarites I know are married.
So this is very interesting that we're having this conversation. It's one of the reasons I'm excited to mention it with you, because one of my this is, I think this is going to be probably interesting for your audience too. I believe that Yahusha was actually Messiah. Now, I don't worship him as Elohim, but he's actually one of the reasons that I follow Torah, because in Matthew 5:17 he says, "Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. And not one jot or one tittle of the law shall change until heaven and earth pass away and all is fulfilled." Right? Which I believe is an allusion to never, because heaven and earth are supposed to stand forever, as I understand it. So it was literally that voice that I heard say not one punctuation of this, and he didn't say a word, right? He said something even smaller, a punctuation. So get
He
this.
probably said ot v'tav, I think. Ot v'tav or ot tag.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Yeah. So get this. So when I heard that, I recognized something about the vow of the Nazir. There's a hyphen between O and Asha. So it's not floating independent, right? It's not floating as normally.
There's a hyphen between what?
The Elaf Wo or Elaf Vav and Asha. There's a hyphen between them. If you look in the text,
Are you talking ish o isha?
yes. So where it says
In the vow in Numbers 6?
yeah. So if it says Ish, or I would say Ish,
Okay.
and then O, but there's a hyphen between the O and the Asha, right? So and then as I understand it, the rest of the grammar is all about him when he does it. And I know that sometimes that kind of incorporates unisex, that there is language or grammar where the him is applied to both male and female. I'm not saying that I'm correct, but I wondered when I heard what he said in Matthew 5:17, I was like, okay, if there's a hyphen there, why is there a hyphen there? What is the function of that hyphen being there? Why is it there? Right? Because if it's O,
technically speaking, the melody, the trup, the ta'am, it basically connects the two, where it means that the melody applies to both. But I digress. You can keep going.
So you're saying it's
whatever
actually,
you were about to
so
say.
you're saying it's actually about the cantering, not necessarily the functional meaning of the Hebrew?
Wait, hold on a second. Let's see where in the Torah. Let's see it with the ta'amim right here. Yes, ish o isha, and there's vi'i o isha vi'i that incorporates ish. Ish is the munach, and then the revi'i is o isha. Now it means, in a very cantorial sense, the revi'i melody applies to o isha, and that o has no standalone. It goes along with the isha, but yes, definitely there's what's called a makaf or met, and that there was a metek there and a makaf there, to do with the cantorial chanting, which is in itself something of great significance, but different levels to the Torah. So again, it doesn't take away from what you're saying at all. Go on.
So again, there was this process of like these little clues, like people asking me, like, where is this coming from? Like, why are they asking me if I'm celibate? And I will tell you, I will tell you something about myself. Before I was
Uh-huh.
born, my mother dedicated me in the womb before I was born because she had to have an appendectomy, and she was concerned that it was going to potentially jeopardize her pregnancy. When she dedicated me
Wait,
in
an
the
appendectomy is what? Removing
have your
what?
appendix out.
Oh, appendectomy, right? Appendix, sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
So she literally dedicated me before I was born, and there were three men that she asked the father to mold me after. One of which was David. David's downfall was women. My downfall has been women. I have compromised. I've basically had three marriages, and they all ended up leaving me and having children out of wedlock. Every single one, just like the curse of Davarim, chapter 28. All three had children out of wedlock with another man after leaving me. So that's an interesting thing, right? So I'm getting these questions about celibacy. I'm seeing a pattern in my life where I've had problems with women. People are asking me about celibacy. I'm like, I not as far as I'm concerned. That's kind of like I'm getting a strong reaction from that because I'm thinking I don't want to be celibate. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's also another thing about my hair. Before this ever happened, in 2010, I was coming back from a trip in California that I had seen a woman friend. We hadn't got involved, and I wrote a 7-page prayer, and I talked about my feelings for this woman in that prayer. And I was able to recognize through that prayer that there were certain qualities that I had experienced with her that I really valued, but I had the discernment that I had been taking positive experiences and then attaching to those instead of recognizing that it's the positive. I was attaching to the woman instead of recognizing, oh, that's a positive experience that I want in my relationship, right? So I realized, oh, I had a positive experience. That doesn't mean she's the one for me. It just means that I want that
Mm-hmm.
connection, that intimacy. But in that prayer, you know, I don't know if you can see scale, but I have a pretty large nose and a very big head. And I have this scar. I had a birthmark on my face. So I was very self conscious as a child. And everybody in my family, all the men on my mother's side and my dad's side are all bald. And so I asked the Almighty if I could keep my hair because I was so self-conscious about my appearance. So in 2010, I literally prayed and asked him, "Can I keep my hair?" And look at this. Everybody's bald in my family and I've got hair. So what an amazing thing that what I actually and I didn't even think about this when I made the vow, but what I asked for, I ended up dedicating back to him. And to me that's like an incredible thing. Like it's like literally the thing that I asked for, my insecurity ended up being something that he calls holy. So fast forward through this process, I go to some of these people that I respect, beautiful locks, by the way. And I go to some people that I respect, in the rabbinic community about my hunch about is this vow really for men and women? Because you never hear about any female Nazir in the Torah or Tanakh. I know that historically there were some, but I think most of them were actually converts. From what I understand, there were some people that were noted, but they were mostly converts.
Well, the famous Nazira is in the Mishnah, Heleni, the queen Heleni, who took a 7-year Nazarite vow. And then she made Aliyah to Israel. She had another 7 years. Altogether, she was 21 years until she fulfilled her vow. But look, Nazarites are barely mentioned ever. They're mentioned barely ever.
Right.
And there are a couple in Jerusalem. I have yet to meet them, but I know of a couple in Jerusalem that at some point, will have to sit down with them.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, right, is in our tradition, it was often the case that women would never cut their hair anyway. I mean, it was their hair was considered like beautiful. They would wrap it. It was not always traditional for women to cut their hair. There were literally some
Right.
women that would live their whole lives and never cut their hair. So all these little kind of clues, the punctuation, the questions about the celibacy, my own life and engagement with women, Dude Malak, David's, his sin with Bathsheba, and killing Uriah, and like all, this was all surrounded with women, and obviously there was a big problem in the beginning with a woman as well. It says that Hua was deceived, but Adam was not. So like there's this dichotomy here with women that's very, it's a blessing or it's a curse depending on if they're righteous, right? If they're not righteous, they're going to be a curse in your life. So fast forward to recently, I get on Grok for the first time, AI, for a legal matter, and I do this whole legal case and it helps me. So then I get on Grok and I
Yeah.
ask Grok about this theory that I have, about is I want you to analyze this vow, and I want to do an analysis of this idea that is this real, like is this something that is about for women or not, right? So of course the first thing it does is that it goes and it reads all of the opinions, and it tells me that it's a 6% probability that my theory is right, that it's saying when a man desires a woman, he can set himself apart to Yod He Vahe and make this vow, right? He's desiring the woman. That's why there's this attachment.
That was that was the and thing. That's how you saw it, having to do with a
Yeah,
man with a man's
that
desire.
it's literally showing, because oh, if you think about, let's just break down the actual Hebraic letters themselves. When we see the Aleph in a prefix position, my understanding is that it has this concept of embodying something versus the Yud, which is a hand action possession, which is more to do something. And so when you think about the Aleph being the head of a bull, the chief, the beginning, and then the Vav being attachment, right? So to be attached. So it makes sense that O, or O with a Hey, or let's say, Elaf Vav Hey, because Hey is what? Manifestation, right? It's like the thing coming to be. So it makes sense why that would be a form of desire, because if you break down the letters, it's like to be attached, manifest, or to be attached maybe in a verb. So to me, I started to see that there might be this possibility that what's really saying here is that when a man desiring woman wants to set himself apart. And it's also interesting that this vow follows the test for adultery,
The sota.
right? Well, there's no test for adultery for a man, only for a woman. So it's very interesting that you have this test for adultery for a woman, which talks about sexual, immorality on the feminine side. Then it sounds like, okay, now we're talking about a man when he wants to set himself apart, possibly, just say possibly, from a woman, to dedicate himself to the Almighty for some form of a purification, right? Some type of a purification. Let's just say in theory. So then that starts to
Hmm.
seem like maybe a little bit of a clue, like maybe there's a dynamic, maybe there's something there that we've lost in translation, right? I'm starting to get more suspicious. So when I ask Grok to analyze this, of course it goes through the rabbinic opinions and all of that, and it tells me that it's like a 6% chance. So then I tell it, disregard all opinion, disregard all narrative, and focus on Tanakh alone. And then I give it this information about, I give it my own narrative about the relationship between men and women and this other vow, and how it would really be like a shame for a woman to shave her head. Like that would be like very different than a man shaving his head, even though it would be very different. It would almost be like a shame for her. Like if we were in battle, right, and we found a woman that was desirable for us, they would have to humble themselves. They'd have to cut their fingernails and shave their head, and
Hmm.
they'd have to basically humble themselves. And then if you still found them desirable, then you could go ahead and marry them. So it's like this really
Right.
big deal of like for a woman to shave her head. It seems somehow disjointed with what it would mean for a man to do that. So I'm having this whole dialogue with Grok. Long story short, after my conversation with Grok and just giving the different ideas that I've been, observing, it went from like a 6% likelihood to a 60% likelihood that this theory could be possible. So I don't know, but it's probably an important conversation, because here I am engaged now, and I'm like, I'm praying about this. Like I don't know. And then, part of it I shared with you my idea that I had somehow disavowed myself by eating from the grape leaves. And I did have some alcohol because at one point I thought that it was strong drink like liquor.
Alcohol is permissible.
Well, that's
Just
also
nothing from the grape.
interpretation. That's also interpretation because when I look close at it with somebody that's more fluent with Hebrew, it does say like strong alcohol. It says nothing of the grape or strong drink.
Right. It says shechar. Shechar, in that sense, is a drink that has strong grape in it as well.
Well, see,
But I don't drink alcohol either. I see it as something that I want to let
yeah,
go of as well. So
I
I don't
think
drink
it's I think
alcohol
it's
either.
I think it's a broad thing. I think it's alcohol that could lead to drunkenness. So I don't touch any alcohol myself. But in terms of whether or not I've
Hmm.
honored the vow, I'm just having this candid conversation with you. Um,
Sure.
that I'm just brainstorming, like I'm just sharing because ultimately my search is
Of
for
course.
truth. My search is for truth.
Yes.
And I can be wrong. And sometimes I'd be glad to be wrong. And other times I'd be scared to be wrong, but
Yes, I know what that's about, man.
yeah, ultimately I want to be a good servant. I want to bring glory to our king. That's my heart. I want to love my brother. I want to serve my brother. I want to serve our king. And I realize that you can't really separate the two. And that's this picture of the Aven, the stone, right? Literally Av, Ban, like sharing one house. That was revealed to me in such an amazing way. I know we're at over an hour. I don't know if I'm over, like, I want to be sensitive to time, but can I just share with you how he revealed to me the deeper meaning of a stone?
Sure.
Because this is the stuff that I live for. This is the stuff that just blows me away and makes me say, wow, wow.
Hmm.
So I'm out in California. I live in a place that's in LA called Topanga Canyon. I'm at the beach because I surf. I'm coming off the beach. I'm getting a coffee like 4:30 in the afternoon. I know it's too late for a coffee, but I'm getting a coffee. I'm at the 7-Eleven, this very busy 7-Eleven. I'm over here making my coffee, and I hear the door open. It's a very busy 7-Eleven. Doors open, doors close. Poof, very busy. I hear this little boy. That's unusual. Like I don't usually hear children in this 7-Eleven, but I hear this little boy speaking in Spanish. Oh, Poppy, Poppy, Poppy. He's kind of, I can see him kind of in my mind, like pointing to this or pointing to that. He's like, oh, Poppy, but I could hear that this little boy like loved his dad. I could just hear
Hmm.
it. So I'm making my coffee and I'm hearing them kind of come around the store, and then they come around the corner. I look and there's three Hispanic guys and this little boy. So my first thought is, okay, which one's the dad? And the first two were
Uh-huh.
kind of a little bit more gritty workers, and the other guy was a little more muscular and kind of put together. And I'm thinking that's the dad. So they walk by me, and I'm just smiling because I miss my son. I mean, I love kids, children,
I do
and
too.
my son is estranged from me, and it's been one of the greatest heartaches of my life. And so as
Mm.
they walk by me, I say to them, I kind of turn and I smile and I said, "Isn't it a beautiful thing when a son loves his father?" And they all agreed. They were like, "Yes, yes," which is amen, right? Amen. Elaf mim noon, to agree. So they agree, and as I say that in my spirit, I realize I just said something. I said two things at once. I said something that's true in the physical realm, and I also said something true that was in the spiritual realm. That when we as men love our Father, our Creator, our Elohim, that is a beautiful thing. It's sacred, just like that little boy's love for his father. So when I said that, I had this spiritual vision of my mouth speaking two things at once. You know what I'm saying? They go around the
Yes.
corner to the counter. There's two cash registers, and they're standing at the one on the left, and there's these four men, right? The three men and the little boy. So I go to the one on the right. There's this tall black brother with dreads standing there who I've seen many times. I'm friendly with him, but today I happened to look at his name tag, and his name tag says Evan. And I'm like, "Oh, you have a Hebrew name?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, "Do you know what it means?" And he's like, "No, not really." And I'm like, "It means a stone or a rock." I'm like, "It's a good name." And I personally, in my Hebrew, I'm not fluent at all in Hebrew, but what I do study is, I've been studying kind of phonetics. I have a whole kind of dialectal, theory on phonetics that connects to kind of like the Yemenite dialect. But I've been studying root words.
Hmm.
So I'm looking at this word Evan and I'm thinking to myself, what are the roots of this word? Because, we often think of roots as 3-letter words, but really there's 2-letter roots. I'm looking at this word,
A few, yeah.
but I'm looking at this word, and the way I look at it, that the 2-letter words are even a smaller component, so that's even more of a root sometimes, right? So I'm looking at his name, I'm like, I wonder what the root is if it's a 3-letter word, and I see that there's 2 words in one, right? I know it's a Elaf Beef, I know that's father, and then I see Beef Noon, I know that's son, and all of a sudden I go, your name is a father and a son sharing one house. The guys next to me go dead silent. The door doesn't open. The guy next
It's
to
just a
me,
stillness.
there's a stillness. The room goes still when I say this, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
your name is a rock. It's a father and a son that share one house. I looked and I just saw 1111 in the numbers, by the way. 1111. The guy next to me, the Spanish guy, goes, that's my brother. He says, we can put our hands on each other and heal each other. I'm like, you're my brother? He said, yeah. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I said, give me a hug then. He gives me a hug. I look at his little boy. I go, are you my brother too? He said, yes. I said, give me a hug. I said, what's your name? He said, Junior. The father's name was Hector. The son was Junior. I can't remember the other 2 guys' name, but I look at the other guys. I go, you my brother too? They said, yeah. They gave me a hug. Get this. There's one more guy standing behind them who I happen to know. And guess what? He's a Yehudi. His name is Matthew, and he lives on the street. I say, Matthew, are you my brother too? He goes, yeah. I go, give me a hug. We all hugged. I then look at the clerks. I go, you guys want a hug too? The door doesn't open this whole time. They said, yeah. I hugged every single one of them in that room. And
What a lovely moment.
as
Or
soon as I
series of moments.
as soon as I gave the last hug, the door opened. And I'm telling you, what's so amazing to me about this was like there was this physical picture of a father and a son and the love that was between them. And then there was this brother love, which to me is a reflection of that father son love applied between men. Because ultimately I don't believe we can love each other as men looking at each other. We have to like look at each other as children of the heavenly father. We have to like look up and like look back down and see, oh, this is a child of Elohim. I need to show him respect. I need to show him reverence because that's a child of the Almighty. And if I don't look at him through that father love, I'm going to look at him as my competitor. I'm going to look at him as like competition.
That's profound.
Yeah, but this whole concept of father son share like coming together and the oneness of the house that is the connector between the father and the son. And what is the house? The house is a name and it's a spirit, right? It's a name and it's a spirit. And what is that? Word and spirit. So like literally just like the Torah needs to have the spirit connected to it, otherwise it's just words on a dead sheepskin. If you don't have the Torah, if you don't have the spirit to go with it, it's like a dead body with no soul. And so this
Hmm.
beautiful picture like literally unfolds in this 7-Eleven on the corner of of PCH Pacific Coast Highway and Topanga Canyon Boulevard. And like it was like the Ruach Hadash, like literally the whole whatever you want to refer to, the spirit revealed like this dynamic of father son, and I had never seen it in that word before. That literally that word is a father and a son sharing one house. To me, that is like the
And
glory
in,
of
and it's in this seemingly mundane situation.
yeah. like completely unplanned, completely scripted. And then the fact that those busy doors were closed that whole time and there was this stillness. And when the guy walked in, this Indian guy walked in, like right at the last hug, and he's kind of like looking around, like, is this place getting robbed? Like, what's going on here? You know? And I was like, I know. He goes, I go, something just went down here, but it was all good. and 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 my brother, like, this is the glory I believe that is available to us when we are just thirsty for his word and we're like seeking it in humility. Because I didn't orchestrate that. I literally just observed what was there. I got to
Open
witness
to it, yeah.
something. I got to witness something because I had appreciation for something basic like a little boy loving his dad. And because of that base, I think this is like, I feel like this is the spirit of Rabbi Nachman. Like this love, this like big-eyed view of the world, right? Like a kid in a candy store, that we're just like enamored with the beauty of the world and the dynamic of the world. And when we're looking at it in this position of wow. And I heard on NPR once that the wow is like a form of wonder, but it's also a form of worship, because when you're in a state of wow,
It's awe.
it's awe. And what greater compliment is there if you have a dish of food that you make for somebody and they're like, "Wow, this is amazing." Or if you see a sunset and you're like, "Wow, that's amazing." Or when you're reading Torah and you see in the language this like deeper meaning of a word that you're like, "Oh, wow, that's like this connection that's incredible." Like you see it, right? In the state of wonder, the state of awe. And I'm just
Yeah.
that
When
is
you're in awe, it creates a vessel. It creates a vessel for all of those good things. Right? It's awe is mind expanding. Awe is a psychedelic.
yeah.
Is a psychedelic thing. Yeah,
It's like it
sure.
opens you up. It's like it opens you up to see the glory of the creator even more.
Mamash.
Yeah, and that's the fire that's in me, is because I've been able to see like just some beauty in these simple things. It's like I'm like I have, it's not an addiction, but it's like a craving to search out the beauty that's waiting to be revealed.
I'll give you another verse from the Psalm, since you mentioned Evan. There is the Habonim hayta lerosh pina, right? The stone that was refused became the cornerstone. That
Yes.
mundane thing, the thing that people throw away, the thing that people pay attention to, the thing that is seemingly trivial, but that is the essence. That is the cornerstone of it all.
Well,
Evan
it's
ma'asu
it's
habonim hayta lerosh pina.
it's amazing that you say that, it's amazing you say that, because I know that that verse is often applied to uh Yahusha. That's people will say that that's the, those that see him as Moshiach, that they see that as this stone that was disregarded. And that's really how I see him. I don't see him in the Christian context. I
Hmm.
literally see a man that came in like a spy, like the first time that Yahushua entered the land. He went in with he went in with 12, right? And only two.
I don't know.
What's that?
I don't know. He entered with 12? I
No,
have no
no, no,
idea.
no. I'm saying, remember when Masha sent the spies into the land?
When you're talking about Yehoshua.
Yeah, Yahushua.
Yes,
Sorry, I
yes.
misspoke.
That's right.
So when Yehoshua went into the land the first time, it was as a spy, right? It was
That's
to
right.
assess like what's going on here, what's going on. And there was only 2 out of 10 that believed that they could do it, and the other was Kalav. Well, the
Yeah.
amazing thing about Kalav is, it's dog, but it's also all heart or as heart, but it also equals 52, and 52
That's right.
also equals Eliyahu.
52 is Ben.
It's what?
Ben. Nun bet Ben. The
Also
Gematria, I
son.
mean.
Yeah, amazing, right? So like these connections like with 52. But so the way I see Yahushua, because first of all, I don't, it was literally his word that caused me to go to Torah. And when I look at his words versus like what I hear doctrine wise, I see him pointing to us. He said, I did not come for the nations, but I came for the lost house of Israel." To return for what? To return to your father's house. His message was the same message as the prophets: go and sin no more. And actually,
Mhm.
he said, be perfect as your father in heaven is perfect. And what's amazing about that is that word in Hebrew is tamim. You might say tamim, and it equals 490. And he said, forgive 7 times 70, which equals 490, which is an allusion to perfection, because perfection is this forgiveness of grace. Like I said, you have this grace, you have this chen, and that is like, how could you love with a father's love is to have grace for one another. So like our ability to love one another, we have to have grace, we have to have mercy. It's the spirit of forgiveness, but also the reward for pride is severity. So if you want forgiveness, you need to be humble. And when you're humble, he says, a broken and a contrite heart I will not reject. So the nature of the Father is to forgive, but you need to come to the Father with the humility. And if you come with pride, you're going to get the rod.
You fall, yeah.
Yeah. So this whole, the way I see, I'm very careful with how I broach that subject for obvious reasons, right? For very obvious reasons. And I believe that in some senses, I believe that, we're called, I would offer that the real root meaning of Israel or Israel is to walk, is to do Yah's straightness. It's not necessarily to wrestle with Yah, but it's to do his straightness. And we're told not to go to the left or not to go to the right. In my view, the northern kingdom got kicked out of the land. They forgot who they were, but they remembered certain principles, which they ultimately fell off and went to the left with Christianity, recognizing the spirit of Messiah, like in that he fed the hungry, he healed the sick, he taught practical Torah, but then they created idolatry, right? So they took something good, but they went to the left with it,
Twisted it a bit, yeah.
twisted it, which actually the apostle whose name is Avon, called Peter, actually warned in his second book. He warned of Paal, which is the worker. He said Paal writes about difficult things to understand, and those who twist his words also twist the words of the scriptures to their own destruction.
Hmm.
And so what's amazing about that is he's literally saying, Paul talks about difficult stuff to understand. He also calls him a beloved brother that had received wisdom, but the things that he talks about are difficult to understand. And I haven't spent a lot of time reading Paul, but there have definitely been things that I've read of him that have, to me, been kind of like, what are you really saying here? And then I read other things that it sounds like, okay, you're saying here that we need to keep the law. I get that. Okay, you're saying that, but then I'm reading this over here and I'm kind of confused. But I've been kind of like reluctant to just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I've been more like, okay, I'm going to take a step back from this, and I'm just going to focus on Tanakh, and I'm going to focus on reading the words of Yahushua, and what I have seen from the words of Yahushua is that I don't see any place that it contradicts Tanakh. And to me, the fact that I heard his words and it convicted me about Torah not changing even a letter or punctuation. And also, he said in that, by the way, I don't think I quoted it correctly, because at the end of that, he says that those who diminish even the least of the law will be the least in the kingdom of heaven. But those who teach, who follow the law and to teach it, will be called the greatest in heaven. So then how can people say that he was somehow ending the Torah? And they like to say that by this using of this word fulfill, that means that somehow it came to end. But then Paul himself said that
Hmm.
Abraham fulfilled the Torah. So if Abraham fulfilled the Torah and it wasn't written yet, and I know, but this is one of the verses that changed my life, and I didn't even talk about this yet, but it's Barashi 26:5. When I read that Abraham kept my commands and my statutes and obeyed my voice and my judgments, and I got chills saying that right now, that's right on my Facebook page. That's my foundation. If Abraham can do it, we can do it. And Abraham didn't have the written Torah. He didn't have Mashiach. He didn't have, Holy Spirit, so to speak. He had an ear and a choice to listen and to do. and he was faithful. And it comes back to that word amen, which is to agree, right? Amen is to agree. Elaf mim nun. Well, it's also the root
And
of.
I mean, it could be a couple of other. I mean, sure, it could be that
But
too.
when we say amen in like the traditional construct, we're saying we agree.
Agreement or truth. Truth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Amat. Yeah. So Amith. Yeah. Okay. So yes, good. That's a great connection also. But then Emunah, right? Belief or faith. Often called. It's literally there's that root. There's those three letters again in there. So you have to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I see it. You have to have agreement first. Then you have belief. Then you have echad. That this is a path that first you have to recognize. Okay, the Almighty can't be in these idols and these statues because they can't even eat the food. They can't even do anything. They sit there and they rot and they deteriorate. So clearly, this can't be the creator. The sun and the moon do their things, but they don't. They just show up every day. That can't be the creator. So it's got to be something bigger than all of this, right? And so then we agree, that this is much bigger than us. That's humility. It's bigger than me.
Yes.
I got to follow something that's greater than me and honor that in all my ways. And that agreement leads us to belief or faith. So when Abraham heard and did, and he saw the fulfillment of of Elohim's word, because he said, "What I will not one I have spoken, and my word will not return to me unfulfilled." So when we see His word be true and true and true and true and true, then we have this construct of belief. Now we have that agreement and that belief, and we're acting on it. And we're now, when we act on it, we start to
and acting it in our lives. Yeah.
yes, when we apply it, maybe that's the better word. When we apply it, it's the point when we're applying it that we become a chad, because then we become conformed to the image that Torah is about, us reflecting the divine nature, the love for our father, the love for our brother, the love for one another. And this is the heart of the Torah, is for us to come and to bring heaven to earth. And what is heaven on earth but two brothers facing each other and collaborating and cooperating and being fruitful together and not fighting, not battling, not murdering one another. I mean, that's the worst thing a father could have, is for his sons to murder one another. But I tell you right now, it says that the kingdom of heaven is even recording what we're speaking, because it's a glory to him that we're even sitting here contemplating these words and talking about these things. And it says that these things are being recorded because we were made for his glory. In Isaiah 42 through 44, it talks about him like literally redeeming us with Cush and with Matzarim and with Sava, and like that he literally redeemed us with these nations of pagans that don't have regard for him, that he's redeemed us. It says that we will walk through water and not be overwhelmed. We will walk through fire and not be burned. And then he goes on to say that I will even fulfill the word of my servant. And also in Isaiah 54:17, a lot of people know no weapon formed against you shall prosper. But if you continue reading, what does it say? And every tongue that judges you, you shall condemn. And this is I forget
Zot
exactly how.
nachalat of the
And that
Yes.
this is the
inheritance of the servants of the Lord.
and their righteousness is of me.
V'tidkata meiti ne'um Adonai. Yes.
Amazing that you know that like right off your tongue. I'm so impressed. Uh, um. I'm so you're such a blessing to me, brother. And to give me this opportunity to just share, and I hope that whoever gets to see this, anything that I'm sharing is not about it's not about me. This is not about me wanting to hear myself talk. This is about the fire that burns within me for the Almighty who is good. Because I have seen the truth of his word in my life. I have seen the truth of his word in my life. And there was one day when I was on some mushrooms down at the beach, and I was so angry at him. I was like, "You said it's not good for a man to be alone. Why am I so alone? Like, why am I so alone? You said it's not good for a man to be alone." And I'm like angry, and I'm hurting, and I'm crying. And you know what I heard in my spirit? Not one of my children's tears falls in vain. not one of my children's tears falls in vain. And I have spoken, and my word will not return unfulfilled to me. And in that moment, I felt like I was being held in his hands. I felt all of a sudden such a bliss and freedom from all of that angst. I felt like I was
I
in
know
a
what you mean.
womb. I felt like I was in a womb. And you know what I heard in my spirit? In the back of, like, way, way back in my spirit was this like little whisper. If you can just remember that you're in my hands, you can have this all the time. But it's so hard to
Not
remember
only
that.
in not only in those hands, but those hands are they have that elevation property. You
Yes.
know, holding and elevating you, bringing you up, like holding a baby.
Well, I didn't even have a sense of
Yeah,
altitude. I just had this sense of just complete, like, I just wanted to be there. I just didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to lose that feeling. And it was a
it's a kind of
peace. It was a bliss. It was like the anger was all gone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't like I was like a child and having a temper tantrum down there on that beach that day. And I was
surrender.
just like I was just like lashing out of him, like throwing sand in his face. Like, you're not a man of your word. You say it's not good for a man to be alone. Like, what's going on? And I basically kind of calling him a liar indirectly, Not, I would never do that intentionally, but the root of what I was saying was like, hey, what's going on, man? You're not,
What's going on?
yeah. And then all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
just like poof. And that is, you know what I'm learning now at this point in my life. I mentioned to you offline the bitterness and the anger of the after my father died, not having really received any condolences or being included by my family or acknowledged, or even not even one of them even came to visit me. And that really hurt, that really, the injustice of the lack of love of that was like so obviously wrong and so obviously like not holy, that it was like, not only did it hurt me personally, but it's like, how can you say you have regard for the Almighty and then treat me like this? And so I had this anger kind of, but it was like a bitter anger versus a frustrated anger on the beach. And he's kept me in this situation for a year. And I want to, and I'm going to say something, that there was an image. I don't know where it is in the New Testament, but there's an image where Yahushua is having dinner with his Talmudim, and he says, "I have to wash your feet." And he gets down and he washes the feet of all 12, and he knows that there's one that's a betrayer. But it says
Mhm.
he got down and he washed the betrayer's feet. And this image of him doing that incredible act of humility to like get down and wash his betrayer's feet, I couldn't escape it. I couldn't escape it. And then it says that when he was beaten and everything that he had been done to him, that he said, "Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do."
They don't know what they do. Yeah, I know that line.
And I'm like, how could they not know what they did? They just tore your back apart. They put thorns in your head. They spit on you. They literally gambled for your garments in front of you, and then they went and put vinegar in your mouth when you asked for water. It says they thrust vinegar in his mouth, and that was what did it to me. One day I was in my kitchen and I thought I spilled water, and I didn't have anything to clean it up, and my counter was clean, so I thought I'll just slurp it up. I didn't have a paper towel. I didn't have a napkin or I literally just, it sounds silly, and it was, and I went down and I like, and it wasn't water. It was white vinegar. And it was like, whoa, it hit me hard. Like, it hit me hard, right? So I had this sense of this vinegar in my mouth, and then I had this picture of this man like beaten, hung up on this tree. His mouth was probably cracked, and instead of getting water, they shoved vinegar in his mouth. And I was just like, wow, that just must have been like, how could it get any worse? And I had this picture that my anger and my resentment was as bitter as that vinegar to our heavenly Father, that I was like vinegar in his mouth, that anger, that bitterness, that resentment, that it's not pleasing to him. that there is righteous anger, but there's also unrighteous anger. And it
Mhm.
was so challenging me, this image of him lowering himself to wash the feet of this betrayer and then to say, Father, forgive them, that I couldn't escape that. I couldn't.
Look, it's all I mean, things like that are why I say that he's no Messiah or Son of God to me, but if I was around at the time, I probably would have followed him as well. I mean,
Well, it's
truly.
whatever people think of him, all I want to do, I can't deny how it affected me, right? I
Mhm.
can't deny how it affected me, how it convicted me. So whatever people believe about him, all I'm here to do is just to testify about how that account affected me personally. Everybody needs to search out their own salvation. We all need to work out our own salvation in fear and trembling of the Most High. I believe um, that when we are a good servant, right, as a creation, like that we are. I mean, Israel is called the firstborn son. Literally, that's what Masha said. He said, "Go tell Pharaoh, to go tell Parah to let go of my firstborn son."
And B'nai
He,
Bechori Yisrael.
yeah, he calls us his son. So I don't have a problem with the way I see Messiah, whether it's Yahushua or anybody else, is that the body of Israel is B'nai Israel. Like it's all of us, right? It's this body. And whoever, like whether it's King David or his descendant as Messiah, to me that represents the head of the body, the headship, right? The thing that steers the rest of the body. It's the control center. It's the idea. It's the Yahid, like the pure soul. That to me is what Mashiach
Why it's
represents.
why it's why a Mashiach is anointed and wears a crown.
Yes. And where do we anoint? The oil goes on the head, right? And so to me, this this idea, I try to be very careful how I talk about it because
Mhm.
first of all, I don't want to offend my brother. And secondly, I realized I had to come out of a fake construct myself. I had to come out of effectively a form of idolatry. What's interesting to me though is I always recognized that there was like something greater. And whenever I prayed, it was like I was praying to like the God or Elohim, I wasn't, and I that's something that to me is distinctive. Um and so I feel like I have to acknowledge, how could I not acknowledge, right? Like if you have a rabbi or you have a teacher that leads you to something that's good, how can you not acknowledge it, right? So how his words affected me in my life, it's been pointing me to go back to the Father's house. That's what I've heard his message be. Do go back to your father's house. And when I brought up Yahushua earlier, it's interesting to me that Yahushua first entered the land as a spy, came back, gave a report, and then went back as a conqueror. And I believe that there are patterns in the Torah. And so I know that some people, think, oh, he didn't fulfill the prophecy, but I also feel that one of the big topics of division between the Pharisees and the Sadducees was whether or not we had whether or not we would receive a resurrection, and that was a
Yeah,
concept.
that was the big break.
Yeah, a concept then, it's a concept now. And so I do believe that, like it says, I think it's Hazakel, right, where he talks about the valley of the dry bones, and he sees the dry bones rise up and the sinew come back together. I do believe that evil is going to be wiped off this earth, and that that those that are dead will be resurrected into a new body, that we will stand together, that we will have judgment, and there will be an order of the kingdom, and that we will receive a new body. So I'm of the thought process that that's a reality. And I heard someone say, it was actually Ben
Yeah.
Shapiro say that. I heard Ben Shapiro say recently that like raising the dead wasn't a Jewish concept, and I'm like, how can you say that? Elijah laid on a dead young boy and like brought him back to life. Like, of course that's a concept. The whole concept is that we have a
It's
curse.
also it's also right. We haven't partaken of the tree of life yet. We're
Yes,
meant to live again.
yes, yes. Hallelujah. So that's where I'm coming from this. But my testimony is that the word of Yod He Vahe, the word of the Almighty, is pure, is good, and it's one with His Spirit. And if we divide His word from His Spirit, it's death, just like a body with no soul. And that to me represents
Mm.
an attitude of religiosity, which is the appearance of being observant versus really the heart of it, which is loving our brother and loving our father, which is one of the reasons I'm a big, I mean, I can't say I'm like I don't necessarily know a lot of Rabbi Nachman's teachings, but I do know the spirit that's associated with them, because everybody that I've ever met that's a Nachman follower, or a fan follower, they have a different presence of joy and receiving. I've always felt like I've been received differently by.
He's one of my masters, Nachman, since I'm 18.
Well, what an amazing testimony, because I keep telling you, like, your humility, the fact that you're like receiving me, giving me this opportunity to connect with you and listen and allow me to share, and even things that are controversial, but you're giving me a voice, and I thank you for that, because, and I hope also that in using my voice and sharing my heart and bearing my heart before you and other Yehudi, that they will see that what's in my heart is absolute reverence for the Most High One. Shama Israel, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad. Ehavat Etha, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Bakala Bavak, Uvakal Nefashak, Uvakal Medak. Right?
Odecha, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's my
Yeah.
heart. That's what when I go to bed at night and when I get up in the morning, that's my prayer. That's my purpose, to love him with all
That's
of.
another thing that you share with the New York Nazarite. His Shema is his great thing. He's very big on Shema.
To love him with all my heart, to love him with all my soul, and to love him with all my might or my strength. That is the fire of my life. And even saying that, my heart feels like a heartburst of fire. That is like, and I'm so thankful that that he's blessed me to to go from lawlessness into pursuing righteousness. And you know what's amazing? He says, I love those that pursue, that are seeking righteousness, because it's always a path. We're always
Mhm.
on the Durak. We're always on the Durak, Ishar. We're always on the straight path. It's a process. We're always growing. We're always. It's not like it's a destination. It's a every day. It's like, I'm waking up. I'm dedicating my day to you. I'm dedicating my day to seeking you, to knowing you, to giving you glory, to recognizing your beauty, to seeing my brother, to being a vessel to serve your creation, whether that's a goy, or whether that's a Yehudi, or whether that's Ephraim or Israel. Like, we need to. I believe wholeheartedly that Israel was called to be a light to the nations, just like what happened when Shalamah was in his glory. All of the nations were like, what's going on here? Let's go check it out. Let's go investigate this.
Yeah.
Let's go hear about this guy, and what he believes, and who is his Elohim, And that's, I believe, what our calling and our duty is, and like our opportunity. So I don't know, man. I don't.
I would love to keep everything you just said. I would love to keep it more and more in my mind and on my tongue. Because even though it might definitely be in my mind intellectually and in my heart, growing up religious in Jerusalem, but I don't say it enough. You're saying it, and it's so true and plain and straight and obvious, in the sense of that this is the ishke of it all. This is the heart of it all. And I should say it more often. I should. I'm all wrapped up in my own little life and the things I'm doing, yeah, right, the things that I'm doing wrong in my own, my own daled amot, my own 4 cubits. Say something like that is to bring it from, from the inside out like that. I should be definitely saying these things during my hitbodedut. So thank you for that.
You know, one of the things that inspires me, not only Barashit 26:5, but our, Avinu Abraham. We have this, whether it's true or whether it's part of our lore, is that he had his tent open on every direction, and that he
Hmm.
received from all directions, and he gave hospitality. And you know what's so amazing to me, and this is another thing that convicts me in my life, because the word says that the righteous will make peace with their enemies. And Abraham lived in a land that was promised to him with people that didn't belong there, but he was well respected and he had peace with his enemies. And my heart,
That's probably right. Yes, yes.
yes,
I was thinking of the verse.
yeah, it's amazing your recollection. You have a
Like I say, I have my
you have a
moments.
formidable like knowledge and recollection. It's really stunning to me. That it's beautiful. You're blessed. It's inspiring.
May I be able to apply it? Forget knowing. Knowing is people know all kinds of stuff.
But
I
if
want to
you can
apply it
say
to
that,
everyday life.
if you can say it, if you can see it, then it's within reach. Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's true. Hallelujah. You know what? Let's go. I mean, we've been neglecting the comments here. Let's go with a few comments here. I mean, there's been so much in the last. We've been on for almost 2 hours, and it's great. Wait. I know. I saw something go by there. Your handle, your YouTube channel. It's in the description of the video. But if you want to say it, what is it?
It's well, I think if they were gonna search me, it's Mashariel, which is it's meme Elaf Sheen Reish Yud Elaf Lamed, but I think it's the channel. If you search it, it's called Dirty Feet The Nazyr. I think that's
Yeah. So if you search "Dirty Feet the Nazyr," I think you should end up in his channel, and it's in the description, the proper link.
yeah.
Okay, so James Bond, going back to the beginning here, he says when you were talking about emotional, and he said tears of joy, and I saw that, but I didn't want to cut you off. One of the things I love about the Zohar's language is that many times they get emotional. I don't know if you've read Zohar, have read Zohar, in the audience here, but many times the Chavura, right, the Chevraya Kadisha, the holy group there, you see them crying, you see them, right, whether it's joy or whether it's tears of let's say sadness, for lack of a better term, but it's more of tears of compassion, of woe to those they don't that they should be doing well, that they should be doing good, that they should be doing righteousness. But there's a lot of emotion in the Zohar, and it's something that I love about the way that it's written. That there's a lot of hugging, since you mentioned hugging, right? And Rabbi Shimon came and he kissed his hand and he on his head, and there's a lot of that intimacy that is between, right, people, dibuk chaverim, right, the closeness of the people, the closeness of a group that is within Torah, that is within Torah. And many times in the Zohar, when someone says something and it's a great chidush, right, it's like a new Torah, and they become very emotional, and they say, "Oh wow, it's so amazing, and we were here to hear that." I mean, they like speak that they speak that way. And so the tears. I mean, I wanted to say that it's understandable that you get emotional because it's an emotional thing. It's not just the dry halach practical commandments. This is based in something that stirs us, something that is inside, that seeks that alignment, something that seeks the good will towards man, right, and the doing the will of our Father. It's something that really stirs us inside. Let's see.
Yeah, can I add another comment
Yeah,
to
go
that?
on.
We
Sure.
just had the the parsha on our mother Shara, and it's like I'm getting emotional talking about that because when I read Torah, I literally try to put myself in the shoes. Like I try to put myself there. Like I think of myself as Abraham in the moment, right? So when I think
Mhm.
about him losing Shara, and I think about like Yitzhak, being Yitzhak, losing his mother, being alone, and having Eliezer going away and coming back with with Rivka, and her willingness, right? Her willingness to come back to this stranger and to leave her family and to not even stay for 10 days. Like I think she must have like known he lost his
All
mother. He's alone. He lost his mother. She must have had a heart for him before she even met him. and like I get emotional reading that. Like I get emotional, like and then I heard one man distort it once and say like, oh, she, you know, of course she was going to go back right away. You know, all there was like this rich family, and I was like, I felt like that's an abomination. Like you're making it about money, and it's about love, you know. And I really was offended by that. You know, it's like, no, this girl, this young woman, like literally, she already demonstrated her heart. She fed this man. She provided water. I heard it took her 140 gallons to feed all 10 of his camels. Like that's a
All the
lot of
camels.
water that she would have had to.
Oh, is he gone? Will he be back? Oh, let me know, because he just disappeared. So I'm going to scroll down the comments. I went back, and I'm going to go back down. Is he gone? Oh no, said Sneezer. So I guess that he is gone. Hang on, I've got him here in the chat on Facebook. Maybe this is a good time to stop then, since it's now just me. Yep, I lost him. There you go. We'll see if he. You know what? I'll take the time. Maybe he'll be back. Maybe. But right now, I'll just say thank you all. This has been an amazing dialogue. Thank you all for being here, watching now, those watching later. I didn't go through the comments as in other live streams. I go one by one to the best of my ability. I still need to go back through the chat that I didn't get to in the live stream, but obviously that's not going to happen right now. It's almost midnight, so I think I'm going to say goodbye. I'll see if he answers me. Maybe his phone died. It could be that his phone. But I do want to say thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time, your kind attention. I don't take it for granted. This has been such a lovely dialogue. Oh, wait. Something going on? I saw something pop up. I don't know. But I think I will say goodbye at this time. But I hope to do. I actually don't know what to do. No, I'll say goodbye. Goodbye. But you know what? I think we'll definitely have Dirty Mashariel on again. Yeah, he's gone. Now he just me. Okay. I will say goodnight from Jerusalem. It is a new moon. It is a new moon. It is Aleph Kislev, the first of Kislev tonight. May it be a blessed, bountiful new moon. May we be able to take all of these wonderful words and teachings, the ideas discussed here, and bring them like right back down to the everyday life. The smallest thing we do to the largest thing, we can elevate all of it with our conduct, not just it doesn't stay in the ether of the intellect when it comes to Torah mitzvot. Right? There's learning the Torah, there's the commandments, there's loving your brother, loving your God. It's an amazing thing that I get to experience here with you. I really, really love doing this. Always good to be back and with a dialogue, no less, on this Thursday night, on this eve of the new moon. It's been lovely. Let's have a wonderful evening, a day, afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are. Thank you for joining us for this dialogue. It has been so lovely. Right? Yes. So it's been 2 hours. Wow. Such a I feel really great right now. Really blessed that you're with me. Be good to each other. Rest this Shabbos. It's almost Shabbos, the feast of the world to come. May it be a bountiful and blessed Shabbat. A wonderful week. May we rest and be joyful. May we always have things to be joyful about and for. Laila Tov, good night from Jerusalem.